Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your first day at the SCP Foundation. Now, as with any job, your first few weeks will be spent in training, going over the various policies and procedures of the Foundation as a whole. Now, obviously, there'll be a great deal of material that's classified to you, so much of what we'll be covering in this course will be a very high-level overview, as allowed by your low-level clearance. Now, since we'll be in this room for the next few weeks together, we'd best get to know each other. My name is Dr. Rosalind MacArthur. I'm a Class C Level 2 researcher. Now, those distinctions might not mean much to you at the present, but you'll understand them soon enough. We're going to go around real quick and have each of you stand up and introduce yourselves. Let's start with you in the bow tie. Wonderful to meet everyone. Okay, go ahead and open up your employee handbooks. What we'll do is we'll take turns reading each section. That way we can go over all of the different policies. We'll pause between each to go over for questions. All right, let's go. No questions on the harassment policies. Wonderful. Next, we're going to be covering the employee classes. Now, please be aware that the employee classes are different from clearance levels and employee titles. They are related to each other, but they shouldn't be conflated for one another. So, in order to keep it from getting too confusing, we are going to cover them in separate sections. So we won't be discussing them together. Now, the simple explanation for classes is that they indicate how much interaction you're allowed to have with the anomalies themselves. No, not orange. Let's go purple. Perfect. Now, Class A. Class A staff members can have zero interaction with any of the anomalies. These are generally going to be the essential staff members that are required for the Foundation to continue running overall. The O5 Council, for example, always Class A staff members. Zilch. Second, we have Class B individuals. Now, Class B staff are allowed to have some interaction, but they have to be very closely monitored for any sort of mimetic effects, and in the event that there is, they need to be administered amnestics as soon as possible so that there's no lasting effects. Class B individuals are also essential staff members, but generally they're going to be essential for localized operations, so that's going to be the head of the site, the lead researchers, for example, things of that nature. So, just a little interaction, that's all. Now, for yourselves and myself, we are Class C, or at least you will be, eventually. Now, Class C staff, they are allowed regular interaction with anomalies, generally for the purpose of research and testing only. You're not allowed to play with them, I'm afraid. Regular interaction. Next up is Class D. Class D personnel are not technically staff members. It's important to remember this. They're also not technically, well, the ethics committee would disagree with me, but you know what? We'll just leave that discussion for another time. Okay. Class D are expendable individuals who are used for testing specifically. They handle the dangerous and hazardous anomalies. They're typically drawn from a worldwide pool of prison inmates, usually those who have been convicted of violent crimes and are sitting on death row. There have been occasions where staff members are demoted to Class D, but that's very, very rare. Unless you fall asleep in one of my lectures. Just kidding. Probably. So these are our test subjects. Okay. Now there is one more class, and that's Class E. Now, Class E personnel are somewhat separate. It's not a permanent class that you get ranked. It's a provisional classification for those staff who have had exposure to potentially dangerous anomalies. Now, these staff members are generally kept in quarantine until they've been cleared for active duty, both physiologically and psychologically, to make sure that there's no lasting effects. And so these are, we'll say, had an interaction. So Class E has had an interaction previously. Now, interestingly, I was actually Class E for about a week. This would have been following an incident with SCP-113, but we'll save that story for later once you've actually got clearance. Now, next up in our handbook is the lunch and break policy. All right, Bowtie, I think you're up. Go ahead and read that. Wonderful, thank you. Were there any other questions on time clock policies? Nothing. Okay. So be aware, if any of you are assigned to SCP-1780, there is an entirely separate set of policies, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now, speaking of clocking out, let's go ahead and hit lunch. I believe that the cafeteria actually has SCP-458 on loan from Site 17, so you are in for quite a treat. Hey friends, Jolene here. I just finished editing, and while there are a few aspects of the video that I'm not 100% happy with, I'm really excited to be stepping into this as a project. So I've got, a green screen to set up and a few costuming changes that I have planned, including some badges that I'm really looking forward to getting in the mail. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to this project moving forward. The plan is to finish the kind of introductory day, and then the majority of the content's going to be actually reading the articles to a class, and then having, questions and things from some of the students that are going to be sitting in. And I've got a few local actors and some voice actors that are willing to just voice a few questions off camera. So it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, so leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, what changes, suggestions, that sort of thing. I'm open to anything. It's my first time making videos of this nature, and so yeah. Like, subscribe, etc. I don't have an upload schedule yet. Like I said, I'm still waiting on a few costuming things. So once I've got everything where I want it to be, it'll be more regular. But for right now, I'm going to shoot for weekly. So yeah. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you soon. Oh, outro part 2. Yeah. So this, like I said, this is the first time I've done YouTube videos, but I am on Twitch, which is where I've done most of my stuff. I'll have links below for my Discord, for Twitch, Patreon, all that fun stuff. I mean, yeah, so if you're interested, come and hang out.